Hello and welcome, my name's Hannah and I'm the C5 Nut. Yes, it's quite short, isn't it? But yeah, I decided new change and yeah, I had to go. Right, now you are probably expecting to see a video of the V6, trying to find out what's wrong with it. That video is currently in production as we speak. There is quite a few issues with the car, so I'm just trying to get parts together and all that stuff that I need for this car. So I will be uploading some content on that car, but that will be done towards the end of the month. It'll be a two-part video, so keep looking out for that. But while we're waiting for parts and everything else for the V6, there's one little project I'm very excited about, more so excited with the C5 caravan, but this project, no one's ever done it before. I know that because no one's even thought of this idea before. So yeah, right, well, I'm going to flip the camera around and show you what all the fuss is about. So all the fuss is all about this car here. This is my 98 plate Fiat Seicento. It's an S model, and we'd be bringing this car back to life. It's been off the road for about a year, only because I had more fun with the C5s and all that stuff, and this car has been neglected, and I hate neglecting cars, but this is one of my other pride and joys. I had one of these as my first car. I will upload a few photos round about here. I had that car for about 4.5 years and I regret it. Well, I've sold it on to buy the green C5, which that is my baby. I mean, I love that green C5, but I also, it's like your first love, you never ever forget. And obviously this is one of my first cars. When I was actually living up in Andover and coming down to Southampton for work, I literally had to do 100 miles every day. So the green C5, it was perfect. It would easily do the mileage. It's just fuel costs. It was easy for me to run this car than it was the green C5. So I ended up buying this car. Now, when I bought this car, it is a Fiat Seicento S. They do four ranges. They do the S, the SX, the CITYMATIC, and the Sporting. Now, you're probably wondering, what on earth do all those mean? Well, the S is a basic car. I mean, all it has is the wheels, the engine, the gearbox. As long as it goes from A to B, it was a basic car. I've done quite a lot of work to this car. It didn't have colour-coded bumpers. These are Michael Schumacher edition bumpers. Never had that fitted as standard. It just had the black nasty trim on it. Never had alloy wheels. These are Cinquecento wheels that came off one of my old cars. So yeah, but they still fit. Again, this car never had alloy wheels. Interior looks messy. There is a new panel in here that needs welding to the front. I explain that in a second. Also, this car never had electric windows. It never had central locking. There's also, it never had a rev counter, which is about here. Now that was only fitted on the sporting models, but there is a way of converting them to make them run on all Fiat Seicentos. There is a way of doing it. Now, the only difference between the S and the SX, including a CITYMATIC, is the SX had colour coded bumpers. It didn't have alloy wheels, but it did have central lock-in, electric windows, had a sunroof, and one extra item. Now, here looks like a bunch of scrap, you know, the old steering wheel, the old cluster, and load of wiring. But the extra on the SX and the CITYMATIC had power steering, or electric power steering. Now, this is what we're going to fit onto the black car. It's never been done before. As you can see, there's tons of wiring. There's even an ECU for it. So I'll be fitting electric power steering to my little seicento. Now, the SX and the CITYMATICs, they're the same car, except for the SX had a clutch pedal, the CITYMATIC didn't. It had a manual gearbox with a manual gear knob, but that was it. There was no clutch pedal. There was a sensor inside the actual gear knob that senses when you move the gears, and that ran a hydraulic pump to disengage or engage the clutch. Now, my first car was a CITYMATIC, and they are notorious for the hydraulic pumps to fail. Now, I'll go in a little bit more information regards to my little CITYMATIC, but I just want to show you, this is the next project. It is fitting electric assisted steering to a very basic car. Now, the S and the SX, including the CITYMATICs, all have different wiring. No seicento has the same wiring. These are slightly different. Hence why I had to remove the fuse box. As you can see, somebody's lovely pinched the relays and the fuses. That was not me. That was just like that when I got to the car. Also, the ECU for this thing, and then the big motor. Now, you're probably wondering why I wanted the cluster. Now, the actual cluster itself has a little light in there, and I'm not entirely sure if mine has it or not. So, you know, if that has got it but mine hasn't, then all I've got to do is swap over the speedo, because my car's got less miles than what it says on that clock. So it was so much easier for me just to take this off as one big lump, rather than trying to pull the steering wheel off, trying to do this, trying to do that. And plus the fact it's just spare parts, you know. I've got spare wiper switch, I've got spare indicator switch on the other side. Okay, it's got an ignition barrel, which I don't have the key for, but it does have the immobilizer module on it. Again, that's probably pretty useless. But I just took the whole entire wiring. There's the that's the immobilizer module. So yeah, I'm gonna start stripping down this wiring and work out what wire we need, and I'll bring you along with us, and you can see for yourself about, you know, if you do want, you know, one of these in your car, this is the way you want to do it. So right, I'll stop here for a minute and start stripping this wiring. But before I go, I'll just sort of give you a heads up with the CITYMATIC. Right, so the CITYMATIC, they weren't as popular as the S or the SX or even the Sporting. Believe it or not, there's a lot more sporting cars, Fiat Seicento Sporting, out on the roads today than there is any other sort of like the S or the SX. CITYMATICs are quite rare now. Not a lot of people know who I am, but back in the day, we're talking like 2004. I think I still have that account even now. On the Fiat forums, I'm not entirely sure if you are on the Fiat forums, but if you are, I'm actually what is it? My ID was Fiat Seicento Expert. that was my ID. I actually came up with a solution to the CITYMATIC problem. Not a lot of people knew of a way around it. Basically, when the pumps failed, it was 5,000. Let me just repeat that. It was £5,000 just to have that fixed, and we're talking back in 2003, 2004. Now the SX that I use, the CITYMATIC I used to have was a 99 plate seicento. I bought it in 2004, so it was only 5 years old, and it done 30,000 miles, if that. I bought it dead cheap, and I've come up with a solution on how to make it be standard. The way I found is you take the whole entire car apart, and I know it's a right pain, but sometimes you just got to, and go to a scrapyard and pull out the pedal box out of the sporting model, or even the S, whatever, they're the same pedal boxes, and then fit the whole entire pedal box to the car. Okay, you need a clutch cable, and then once you've done that, you then got to redo the gearbox setup for the clutch, because the arms are slightly different. Now, me and my biological father spent about 3 months trying to come up with a proper solution to the gearbox issue, and we've finally done that. It was a matter of cutting a bracket and just welding a new bracket on. I know it may sound, well, that's pretty simple, but when you actually look into like the forces of that pedal, you know, how much force you have to use to undo the clutch, it's quite strong. But even though when you got that far, you then got the electrical issue, because if there was a fault with the clutch in any shape or way, the engine would not fire. It won't even turn over. And that's something else that I've come up with a solution for. There is a bypass you have to do on the gearbox ECU, and yes, it has a gearbox ECU. You have to remove it, completely remove it, and then rewire the engine to make it think it's still there, but it's not really. Again, that was a lot of work. Sadly, I don't have any footage of that at all. Yeah, I don't have a CITYMATIC that I can get my hands on. Otherwise, I will be doing that. You know, show you some videos on how to do that. But yeah, what can I say? This is going to be probably like a 3-part video. This video is just basically the start of what I've got planned for this little Fiat. The second one is we actually fit the remove the old steering column and fit this new one in once I've worked out how to do the wiring, so bear with me for a couple of weeks. And finally, the new panel I've actually got in the car. When I first bought the car, I wasn't aware that it had a dodgy MOT. The cross member had been completely bent, and the driver's headlight was completely it was pointing in the wrong direction, and how it got through an MOT is beyond me. But I literally bought the car 2 days after it's had its MOT and just carried on driving, not realising what sort of damage it had underneath. But yeah, it's come to a stage where the only way for me to correct the alignment was to put a piece of wood in the back of the light. Now that was just to get me out of trouble. But I've had enough of keep shoving wood in the back of the light. It needs to be done. It needs to be done right. And it's a car I'm planning on keeping. So yeah, I've got a new panel for that. So that'll be the last video, is we weld that new panel in, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can actually get its MOT done and get it on the road. So I'm looking forward to that. Right guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm awfully sorry about the way how this video is. It's just that things happen, and yeah, parts for the V6 are getting harder to come by, so I won't upload a video until the parts come, only because it's a 2-part video. So right guys, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If you like the content you've seen so far, please give us a thumbs up, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much. See you soon.